I'm Abigail Martin from Penalty Box Radio, here with Sam Fleming and Peyton Turnage, also of the lovely Penalty Box Radio. Just finished up a little G-Nash hockey, but really, what we have to talk about. The Nashville Predators relieved 2 of their coaches. What are y'all feeling?
Wow. Kind of the timing shocked me. I think a lot of people thought it would be earlier in the season, honestly, with Laviolette, but I thought there was a lot of rumors McCarthy might go, especially with how the defense was struggling a little bit lately, but to see both him and Laviolette go, new era for the Predators, 5 years under Laviolette, so we'll just have to see how things go now.
And then conversely, a lot of people thought it would happen after the season. David Poile being a very patient general manager, I think a lot of people thought that he was going to wait this out and wait till the end of the season to maybe make a coaching change.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I was definitely on that boat. I gave at least Laviolette, that's obviously everybody's main focus is the head coach. But I looked at Laviolette and I was thinking, okay, rest of the season, maybe something in the off season, maybe give him even a little bit more of the next season. But I think now with David Poile, he is in that win now mentality.
You got to look at where St. Louis was last season when they were bottom of the league at this point in January of 2019. And they changed to Craig Berube and they won a Stanley Cup. Am I saying the Preds are going to do that? No, not necessarily. That's a 1 in 1,000 shot. But I think you've got to start somewhere. And Laviolette's always had this 5-year system with where he's been. Whether it's the Carolina Hurricanes or the Philadelphia Flyers, it's always been 5.5 years, and then he's out the door. I thought he was a great coach for Nashville, and I tweeted about it. You've got to thank him for the 5 years he gave us here. He led this team to be a contender, brought him back after some tough years under Barry Trotz, and made it to a Stanley Cup final. So a lot of credit for what Laviolette's done, but I think it was time for a change.
Would you say that this would be the right move as well?
I would agree. Again, the timing is a little bit shocking, but he's kind of that kind of coach that overstays his welcome, and we're starting to see it with other coaches too. John Cooper in Tampa has about the same longevity as him, and his message is starting to fall through with Tampa. They're starting to struggle as well. So it just kind of became time for Peter Laviolette to go, unfortunately. It just wasn't working out, especially with a team as high caliber as they are right now.
Yeah, I mean, David Poile created this team to win now. However, things are obviously falling through the cracks with Laviolette. And Matt Duchene just the other day was saying how there was something going on that was really confusing. So I'm really wondering if he was trying to hit on the internalities of what's going on with this team, thinking, does Laviolette have control of this team?
Yeah, and I go to Toronto when they fired Mike Babcock this year and look at him now under Sheldon Keefe. That team has found something. Tyson Berry's playing better. Frederick Anderson, Marner, and Matthews, they've all seemed to come back to form. Could this be the moment we see guys like Johansson and Duchene really step up? Even Kyle Turris. We've seen what Turris has said about Laviolette in that post-game interview after he came back against Tampa. Could this be a chance to uncap something for the Predators in this structure?
When we talk about how this relates to David Poile, he's made enough earth-shattering trades. I think he's kind of out of cards in his pocket. This is the team he's got, and for the team to struggle, it really does come down to the coaching staff. And I think you bring up a great point with Kyle Turris. We saw him play great under Guy Boucher in Ottawa. We've seen him play well in other places before, but as soon as he got to Nashville, it just seemed like his production just dipped dramatically. So maybe a new voice, new system will help Kyle Turris, and it'll maybe feel like we've reacquired him in a trade somewhat.
I agree with you on the player aspect as well, because right now I think the Nashville Predators are seeing a lot of success from their third line. You're not looking at your last year's Jova, but you're not looking at those key players individually as much as you are anymore, as you're looking at that third line because they are producing and they are working. So hopefully that is exactly what they need to have those key players, because the Nashville Predators need that right now if they're going to make it to these playoffs.
Yeah, and that third line's got to be the leaders of the Preds right now. And I think we've talked about it, all of us, that I think Bonino and Grimaldi have been the best 1-2 punch on the Predators this season, and Craig Smith's heating up at the right time. So if there's going to be a line that can bring this team back together, it's going to be that line, and then you got to have Jofa start going as well. It hasn't been the best of years for Arvidsson being injured. Forsberg was out for a little bit too. But we really need Ryan Johansson to come back and be a 30-goal scorer like he was in Columbus that last year before he came to Nashville, or even be a 50-assist player like he was that one season.
And at this point when we're recording, we don't know who is going to be next. Maybe by the time you see this, we'll know who the coaching staff is. But I think, it's time to kind of play around with the lines a little bit. We saw at the beginning of the year Kyle Turris playing on Johansson's line. We saw Forsberg with Granlund and Duchene. So whoever it is, I think they're going to play the best matchups and I guess find the best chemistry if they can, and not be so locked to Jofa and Benino's line. I think we're going to start to see some juggling and hopefully better success for this club.
Yeah, I mean, it's so weird. This season especially, the lines have been jumbling nonstop. It feels like 1 minute Jofa's together, and the next minute you have that second line, and Johansson's on the first.
Forsberg on the fourth line.
Yeah, Forsberg on the fourth line. I feel like we have seen everything this season, and it's very strange because you know that chemistry takes forever to build up. You can't really just throw around some lines and hopefully pick something together and get a random win here and there. That's not how it's going to work. However, as we go into the coaching talk about it, do you see this being an internal acquisition, or do you think someone's coming in on the external side?
That's hard because I've been high on Carl Taylor down in Milwaukee. He's done a great job getting that program turned around, and part of that's with Scotty Nickel, the GM down there as well. I could see him going for a name that's an assistant coach. I've heard Lane Lambert, who used to be an assistant here in Nashville, thrown around. I've heard Peter DeBoer as well. But what if John Cooper gets fired from Tampa Bay? Could that be something you see in the offseason? I think at the interim aspect, it might be in the team. In the offseason, though, unless the interim coach takes off, maybe you do hire someone that's on the open market if they are available.
I've been very high on Carl Taylor as well, but he's a rookie coach, right, with Milwaukee, so we just don't know at this point. He's great in the AHL, but does he have what it takes at the NHL level? Again, like you said, Peter DeBoer is basically the only big free agent name out there at this moment, so you make a good point. It may be just sort of an interim basis till the end of the season, and then they go big in the offseason. But at the same time, like we've mentioned, the way this team is built, they're built to win now. They can't wait around. So it's going to be interesting to see what they decide in the next 2 days. And we don't even know who's going to be coaching tomorrow night's game in Boston, or against Boston.
Right. It's only Dan Lambert and Dan Muse who are left on the staff, so there's going to have to be something that's put together quick. And the thing that I was a little concerned about is if you're firing a coach, why hasn't someone been named right now? Does that tell me that maybe David Poile does have a name in mind that's a long-term head coach? Who knows? We'll just have to see.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, especially at first, like with your point about Taylor coming in and then possibly get someone in the offseason. Taylor's going to have the same system right now, being the affiliate, minor affiliate. However, yeah, going in tomorrow is going to be a different game. But however, real quick, tomorrow I will be covering the press conference of David Poile. So we will hopefully get an announcement of who's going to be coaching and what all that sort of ordeal is. So stay tuned with me in Pony Box Radio, and I will hopefully have that coverage for you and those questions answered tomorrow because everybody wants to know. Everybody wants to know. I mean, I'm surprised with the timing of it being in the middle of the season. I mean, typically these changes are already made. However, I wonder if something, because I mean, just 2 weeks ago, David Poile was saying, I'm not touching my coaches. Well, he touched his coaches. That's for sure. What was the final straw?
You know, I was talking to someone about it in Dallas, and I partially wondered if they were holding on to him until after the Winter Classic to make a decision. But I didn't think they played, except for maybe the early part of that Anaheim game, that bad on that road trip. But I thought that might be the final straw, how they did on that 2-game road stand back-to-back with LA and Anaheim, because Anaheim's bottom of the Western Conference right now. It's hard to really gauge, but I can tell you a game where I saw this season kind of turn for the Predators, and it's when they played the Calgary Flames at the end of October. They were up 4-1, and then they blow that game, and Matthew Tkachuk wins it in overtime, and they haven't been the same since.
Now, that's really when the wheels fell off. As you were mentioning, the game last night against Anaheim, I was watching at one point, the shots were 30-10, I think, in the second period, early in the second for Anaheim.
It's quality over quantity.
Real
quick.
Boy.
But go ahead, keep going.
I think you're right. Maybe toward the Winter Classic, because it might be kind of cruel to fire your coach before a big marquee event like that. But at the time of the firing, too, it was right at the halfway point of the season. So maybe Poile was thinking, I get to halfway and see where we are, and they're fourth last in the West right now, just barely above Chicago. They've got games in hand, but they should be up competing with the Blues and the Avalanches of the world.
Yeah, and they're still 4 points out of a wild card spot, so they're still in the hunt. It's not like they're so far out like a Detroit right now. They still have a shot. And when you look at when Craig Berube was brought in, I think it was before the Nashville game last season in November. So they had a little bit more time with Berube. This is kind of a crunch time moment. You've got the All-Star break coming up, though, here in a couple weeks, so they will have some time to work with these guys. But I think that Poile's got to find a voice in that locker room that can really connect with these players, because they need to make a run if they want to be at least a wild card spot in the West right now.
And we mentioned David Boyle last week. Heard him mention that if this team doesn't get any better, they're going to be sellers. And again, we don't want to see that with this team. We want to see trades that help the team win the Stanley Cup, not trades that help other teams win the Stanley Cup while, the Preds contend for a high draft pick for Alexis Lafreniere. So we'll see what they do. I think we may see a few support trades. We may see a guy like Mikael Granlund leave town, get a little bit of second line help, maybe a defenseman, a right-handed guy on the second or third pair to help the tension on Fabro. Lots to see, but I think we're going to have to see what the coaching staff does before any moves are made like that.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. I mean, this was definitely a good talk, first of all, but really, seeing them not walk out, but be fired, being sent out was definitely just mind-blowing for a lot of people. I know I was completely shocked, but however, we will see what happens and hopefully get a reaction of who takes over, what the next plan is, see if it's going to be internal, turn into external like you mentioned. However, for right now, it's a big question mark. So that's all we got for you. Thank you so much for tuning in, and hopefully I can have some questions answered after tomorrow's press conference.